Well, good evening, friends, and welcome to this World Glaucoma Week edition of Glaucoma Australia's live Q&A, proudly brought to you by our long-standing and very generous supporters at Glaucos. My name is Adam Check, Chief Executive, and on behalf of the President and the Board of Glaucoma Australia, it's great to have you with us for this very special kickoff to World Glaucoma Week. Before I introduce our guest speaker this evening, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands and the skies and the seas in which we collectively gather for tonight's event. I'm currently on Darug country, and so I pay my respects to those elders, past and present, along with their emerging leaders. Tonight, we are privileged to have a very special guest and one of Glaucoma Australia's ambassadors, Mike Amor. Mike is an award-winning journalist, a seven News Melbourne newsreader, and an all-round great guy. And like many of our community tuning in tonight, Mike lives with glaucoma, navigating that in what has been a remarkable career, while being a passionate advocate in the fight against this eye disease. Mike, welcome.
Thank you, Adam. I've got to get you to do my PR from now on. You're exceptional.
Thanks. Very kind. Mike, you've made it no secret about your ongoing battle with glaucoma. But before we talk about that, let's talk a little bit about you and your career and your journey so far.
Yeah, well, I've been a journalist almost 40 years now, Adam, and I spent most of my time in America as a US correspondent for Channel 7. So I've been lucky enough to see a lot. I think I've been to 70 countries across the world and have covered major events like September 11, Hurricane Katrina, 5 Olympics, 5 elections, 2 World Cups. And you're seeing some photos there of me outside the White House and at a volcano, and in Cuba where I covered Fidel Castro's funeral. So I've been very fortunate for a boy that grew up in Bendigo, the son of a newspaper printer who really only got his job, to be honest, through nepotism. I almost failed year 12 English, so I didn't really deserve the opportunity. But thanks to my dad being a printer at the Bendigo Addy, I got my chance and took it and ran with it, and I've been very fortunate.
Yeah. Any, just reflecting on your career, Mike, any pivotal moments in particular that has helped to shape your path personally and professionally?
Well, certainly, Adam, September 11 will be the biggest story that I've ever covered. And I think until that moment, it happened in about the first year that I was in America. And until that moment, I think I was a pretty young journo, and that kind of shook me hard. I was in New York City for Leighton Hewitt, who had the US Open that year, 2001. And we were going home. We were catching a plane out of New York that morning. And I'll be honest, we'd had a few drinks the night before, so we were a bit dusty. And we jumped into the cab and we were driving to the airport. And as we went into the tunnel, Midtown Tunnel, the cab driver said to me, he thought we were tourists. He said, he was Israeli, and he said that's the consulate for the Israeli government. And he said there's always a police car there, and almost on cue, the police car lit up and took off. And we went down Midtown Tunnel and came back outside the other end of it, and the world had changed.
Wow.
The plane had just struck the World Trade Center, and my phone lit up. It was back in the day of flip phones. If you're not old enough to flip phones, please ask your mum. And we found ourselves at the center of, perhaps the biggest story, I think, in my lifetime. It was transformational, and obviously plunged America and the world into really unknown territory, resulting in 2 long wars and terrorist attacks. And so I think that shaped my journalistic career from there.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Mike. So take us through your personal experience then with glaucoma, and presumably you were living with glaucoma at this stage. But take us through the personal experience you've had from diagnosis to where you are today. And then was there a moment when you realised the severity of your eye condition?
Well, I first found out that I had pigment dispersion, or Krukenberg Spindle is what they originally diagnosed it as, in my mid-20s. I was still in country Victoria, still in Ballarat, working in a newspaper, and my eyes, I needed to go and get glasses, which is not uncommon for the first kind of diagnosis of having some glaucoma-related issues. And I still remember I had my eyes tested, and the optometrist at the time called everybody in from the little clinic and said, "I've never seen this before." And I'm, what the hell? So it turned out I had pigment dispersion. I'm sure people know what it is. It's your pigment rubbing off the back of your iris, and it results in floaties in your eyes. And those floaties, it looks like pepper. It's been shaken and block the drainage of your eyes. So I knew at a very early age that I had this problem, and I as any 20-something-year-old, I kind of maintained it. And then I went to the US, and I again went and saw someone, and I had the same reaction. And really, I was able to keep on top of it until my 40s, and then it started to get worse. The pressure in my eyes started to grow. So I had SLT, the laser treatment, and that worked for a while. And then in my late 40s, span out of control very quickly. My eye pressure quickly rose into the high 50s in both eyes. I was prescribed, I think I had 4 eye drops and a tablet every day. Those 4 eye drops, some of them were 4 times a day, and still my eye pressure in the 50s rather. The moment I realised I was in trouble, I actually came back here to Melbourne, where I was being tested to be a newsreader. And well, I was still based in LA, but the newsreader at the time was on holidays over Christmas, and they got me to come back and do a kind of a trial run to see how I went. And my eyes were bright red, because it turns out that I was on an eye drop that a lot of people are allergic to. And I looked like a cast member of The Walking Dead. Which, can I just say, it's not the ideal scenario when you're trying to test it. In fact, I had some very unkind viewers, but quite funny, who were suggesting that I was smoking too much dope in reading stories. I was in a mess. I was in a real mess, Adam. My wife joined me for Christmas that year, and she saw it. My eyes were weeping too. I had to wipe my eyes in between every intro that I was reading. It was terrible. I was terrible. It was terrible. And my wife saw this, and she panicked, and she went back to America before I did, and rang every ophthalmologist she could, and every clinic she could. And unfortunately, in America, you can wait 6 months before 12 months to see a specialist. But we were lucky enough to get into a specialist about the week after I got back, and he nearly had a heart attack. He said he was worried my eyes were going to stroke out because they were above 50. Booked me in for surgery. Some poor bugger out of their surgery on the Monday. Booked me into surgery, and that started 5 months of constant surgery, constant care. He tried to clear the mesh. Again, I'm probably talking to an educated audience here, but the mesh had been clogged by this pigment flowing around in my eyes. He tried to clear the mesh, but unfortunately the clogging was further down, deeper into my eye drainage system. So he tried it in both eyes. It didn't work, and then he did the trabeculectomy. Interesting hard word to say, where basically he built a canal in both eyes. And and that didn't work either in either eye. And then it suddenly worked in one, but it went down so low that it created wrinkles on my eyes, so I couldn't see out of them. And I actually turned 50 during this period, and my eyes were, I couldn't stand being out in the sun. I lived in California; there was a lot of sun. I was really scared that I was going to go blind. I really was. I'm not being dramatic. I've spoken to the surgeon again just recently, and he said I was one of those patients that kept him up at night because I was young for what I was going through, and nothing he could seem to be working. In fact, one day out of desperation, he said, well, we need to get in and try and open this new canal up a bit more. I can book you in tomorrow in a surgery, but I think we need to do it now. So he said, we're going to do it without anesthetic. So he got the pin, started wobbling, and I hope no one's having dinner, started wobbling this pin in this man-made canal in my eye. I was there in the surgery crying, and I'm like, oh my God. But eventually he was able to get it under control, and slowly, very slowly, my eye pressure started going back down. But it took a hit. It really hit me hard because I was scared. I had an 11-year-old at that stage. I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to see him grow up. I came back in 2018, that same year, to Australia. I got the newsreading job. I'm not sure how on that rehearsal, but I got the job, and I just had my third surgery, maybe fourth surgery in October. So it's an ongoing problem for me, Adam. I've had my eye drops tonight. I'm going to need more surgery, but my surgeon Michael Coote reassures me that he's not going to let me go blind, because there's not many jobs for blind newsreaders going around, I'm told. But it's an ongoing battle. So it is an ongoing. I also say, this is not a woe is me story. I mean, I'm lucky. I can still see, but it's important. I'm so honoured to be an ambassador for Glaucoma Australia. And if I can my story helps one person go to see an optometrist and get their eye pressure measured and find out that they've got it, because there's so many people walking around. It was 300,000 have got it, and many of them don't know that. And that's just scary because people don't talk about it. I don't, you hear about high blood pressure, cholesterol. You just don't hear about my beautiful neighbour next door. He's in his late 60s, got great eyesight. He's never had his eyes tested. Well, he could be walking around with it without knowing it. I had pressure in the high 50s, and a lot of people feel that kind of pain in their eyebrow. I didn't feel that.
Yeah, understand. Well, one of the things you touched on there is it's quite relevant to our community, and it was very much around the worry, the anxiety, and the distress caused by glaucoma. And what does that mean? And what are my options? And what will happen? And will I go blind? And I mean, we're very fortunate at Glaucoma Australia to have highly qualified and very passionate orthoptic educators working with our community to help them understand, what the next steps are, and also to stay connected, with our program SiteWise, which is effectively keeping people compliant with their medication and the directions they've got from their treating clinicians, as well as staying adherent to follow-up points. But I mean, it's not just the eye disease itself; it's also what it contributes to overall, good mental well-being, and that's something that we're particularly cognizant of. And certainly a shout out to our community at large who help us to fund that program through their ongoing support. Now, in your line of work, this is really interesting. So what adjustments, given you're looking at auto cues, newspapers, reading a lot, I imagine, Mike, what adjustments have you had to make because of your glaucoma?
I just lost the end of your question there.
Sorry.
No, what adjustments I had to make? Well, I mean, for example, I had my last surgery was cataract removal as a result of all the surgery that I've had, that helped develop and speed up cataract. I turned 57 yesterday, so I'm kind of young for cataracts. I've had both of them out, so just that alone, pretty minor surgery. Yeah, there I am, like a handsome devil that I am, like a one-eyed pirate. So just that alone meant that all of a sudden, kind of middle last year, I was losing auto cue. It was going blank on me. The lights, we obviously have a lot of lights. I don't look naturally as good as I do on TV without the lights, just saying, and makeup and hairspray. But I was really struggling, Adam. I was struggling driving. That's not a direct result of glaucoma, but it's kind of the side effect. So I've had to adjust. I mean, after those surgeries that I had in 2018, I couldn't read anything except using a magnifying strip. And you mentioned sight-wise. I wish they had something like that in America when I was there, because that's as wonderful as the doctors are. They're busy. They talk different language to what we do, and we understand. I mean, I had to look up tonight what trabeculectomy was, because I still doesn't roll off my tongue, obviously. So, and they're busy, and they talk in their own terms. And sometimes we were going to the surgery daily, and sometimes I'd leave with my wife. We'd wait there for 4 hours, 5 hours, sometimes every day, and I'd walk away and I'd have no idea what the hell just happened and where I'm at. And so that kind of support is just so crucial, because it really messes with your mental health. And I don't mind admitting that. I was a mess. I was a mess physically. I was a mess mentally. So, and if anybody's going through something similar right now, my heart goes out to you. I've been there. I get it.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you for sharing that too, very openly and honestly. So you're a proud ambassador for Glaucoma Australia, and I know you were motivated to taking on the role just to create awareness, to encourage people to get tested. But if you had to boil it down, and there was one message that you're going to share with our community who are online, and many will see it after tonight as well, what would that message be?
Just go and see an optometrist. Go and get your eyes checked. Getting your eye pressure checked is so easy. It's just a puff of air. It takes no time at all. We put a lot of effort, as I said, into heart disease and cholesterol, and this is just something else that you need to put, especially as your age, put on the agenda of your of keeping well. Is go and see an optometrist. I think it's covered by Medicare. Just go and get it done. It's so simple, so easy. You may not know you have the start of glaucoma, and if you leave it too long, it's too late. If you find it early, and I feel, Adam, I was lucky. It sounds stupid saying that I had it so early, but at least I knew I had it, and yet it still kind of almost snuck up and took my eyesight. The silent thief of eyesight, as they call it. It still nearly bit me in the bum, and I knew I had it, and I was on top of it to a degree. Because of my travel, I probably wasn't as diligent as I should have been. Get on top of it, because it doesn't need to claim your life in most eyesight in most cases. That would be my message. Just go and get your eyes checked. It's not that hard.
Good man. Thank you, Mike. Now, we do have a question from our viewers, and the question is, eye pressure can increase with physical activity for someone with pigment dispersion syndrome, as you've talked about. How do you stay active, Mike?
I work out every day, and quite hard. I'm pretty fit, so I haven't found that. I work out an hour and 2 hours every day. I'm older now, so I wouldn't say I'm running marathons, but I think a healthy body, healthy mind helps you fight everything. it hasn't been a problem for me. I mean, obviously, talk to your doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really helpful. Now we might have a few more questions, but one of the things I did want to touch on is that, if okay, I understand that you're in the midst of writing a book. Now, is this true?
Yeah, it is true. And please, if you like it, tell other people. If you don't tell anybody. I have got a book coming out. It's called News Cowboys, which is the tongue-in-cheek nickname that we gave ourselves in our bureau among our cameramen, because we really felt like that we're often riding into a new adventure, sometimes dangerous, very unprepared, and it kind of follows my career mostly as a foreign correspondent covering the likes of September 11, Hurricane Katrina, the Haiti earthquake, where we helped pull a little toddler out of the rubble. She was left trapped there for 3 days next to the bodies of her parents. So I hope what the reader will get out of it is kind of a bit of a behind the scenes look at what it takes to cover those events, what it costs people like me to cover those events. Again, not a plea for any sympathy at all, because I chose to be there. But if I can put modesty aside, I'm proud of what I've achieved. From the boy from Bendigo who almost failed English. So that it'll come out in time for Father's Day. So I think it'll hit the shelves in August this year. So Adam, I expect you, if I don't sell any other bloody book, I expect you to buy one.
Well, I tell you what, I'll buy a book if you shout the dumplings when I'm next in Melbourne, okay, and we catch up. All right, we'll make that a deal, okay. And now I do understand also, Mike, we've got a couple of other clinical questions that have come through, and for our community, we'll refer those as well, to be fair to Mike, as well as my knowledge of all things glaucoma and eye disease, to our orthoptic educators in the SightWise program. So they will respond to our viewers in due course. And of course, we'll make sure we've got a transcript of this as well. And in what has been a terrific start to World Glaucoma Week. I've got one final question, Mike. Yeah. Really important. Okay. Now, usually you're on my side of the desk, okay? I want to know from you, from the master, what's my score out of 10 for moderating this?
Oh, 10 out of 10. In fact, I'm a little bit worried about taking over my gig. No, you stay on. You stay doing what you're doing. You're a real threat to me, like a triple threat, Adam. Hey, well done. You've done really well. It's unusual for me to be on this side of the camera. I much prefer to be on your side, asking the questions and rather telling the story. But I'm really grateful to have the opportunity, and I hope whoever's listening, watching tonight, gets something out of it. And if you're in Melbourne, please watch Channel 7 News. Shameless play.
Absolutely, and so they should. Mike, thank you for your insights. Thank you for your passion. It's a privilege to have you as an ambassador for Glaucoma Australia, and you are an all-round good bloke. And thank you for sharing your personal journey and your stories for our viewers. And this has been a wonderful commencement to World Glaucoma Week. So we have a number of Q&As for our viewers across the rest of the week, tomorrow night and Wednesday night, a little bit more clinical and answering some of those questions that you connect with our SightWise program members about. But Mike, again, and on behalf of everybody, thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to reading the book when it comes out, my friend.
Thank you. I don't know, is it right to say Happy Glaucoma Week? But anyway.
Yeah, let's do it.
Have a quick week. People, please just tell other people, get tested. It's not that hard. Yep. Get tested.
Mike Amor, you are a legend. Thank you so much, my friend. Really appreciate it.
Have a great night, all.
Thank you.